Welcome everyone to this is Jesse's birthday celebration month. Jesse's birthday is June 30th. My name is Scarlett Lewis. I'm the founder of the Jesse Lewis Choose Love movement. Jesse was my son who lost his life at Sandy Hook and left a message on our kitchen chalkboard. It's actually right around the corner from me right now. Nurturing, healing, love. 3 words that became my mission in life to get the message that we can't always choose what happens to us, but we can take our personal power back by choosing how we respond, and we can always choose love. I don't know about you, but that's the world that I want to live in. And in my search for other people that choose love, I came across Dr. Steve Rudin, who is a co-founder of havening.org, and Feliciana, who is the president, CEO, COO of havening.org. And I was so excited, and we've now partnered, and I'm just so honored and thrilled because Havening, I believe, and I've said it since I think the first time that we met and we were Zooming together, that it is going to revolutionize trauma in our children. And I am thrilled that we're going to be bringing it to schools. It's already in schools, but we're going to be bringing it to the Choose Love schools in the fall. And this is my mom. Everybody, my mom wanted to join tonight because this is a very important event. This is helpful to anyone and everyone, regardless of where you are in your life, how old you are, what you're going through, what level of physical, mental, emotional, spiritual pain you're in. Havening can help. So thank you so much, Dr. Steve Rudin and Fee, for joining us.
Real pleasure to be here, Scarlett.
So, I know that I was looking at Havening as something that could help our kids for right now where we are in the world. We're coming out of social isolation, social distancing, I'm sorry, but it is isolation it is isolation, and that is very painful. We had a loneliness epidemic going into it, so we've got a lot of kids that are going through a lot of anxiety, depression issues. And then I remember meeting you for the first time and Fee, and I was so excited. And then I thought, gee, maybe this could help me. And so I texted you afterwards. I said, I've been having seizures. I wonder if it could help me with my seizures. And you said, absolutely, call my brother, who happens to be Dr. Ron Rudin in New York City with the Amen Clinics, and Steve's twin brother, who's the co-founder of Havening. And we haven together with some really tough stuff. And I actually laughed. I don't know if he told you, but we were both masked, but we were laughing because we were going, I was going into some of the stuff that happened in my tragedy, and it just disappeared. And it was really incredible. And then my little gift to you, this is just telling you like how powerful this technique is. It's really important that we have a way when we're in a certain situation and we're feeling so desperate and we're in so much pain. We're either going to choose, we want to choose something immediate, an immediate help. So is it going to be taking a drink? Is it going to be for kids maybe cutting? Is it going to be drugs, worse? Or is it going to be a simple technique that we can do that can make us feel better almost immediately? And that's what Havening in is. I know that I'm proud to report that I've been seizure free now for over 2 months, which is just mind blowing to me because it was really negatively impacting my life, obviously as a speaker. And I know I'm taking a long time and I want to turn it over to you, but I'm so excited about this. We had an event last night with Yannick, who is There's a book about his life called A Starfish from Africa. If any of you on here didn't hear this, it is incredible. You can get the recording from us. Yannick, it's just amazing how we're all connected, and he
Survivor.
Jesse is the reason that we're together, and it's a crazy story, but he is an orphan genocide survivor. He still has PTSD, and he's actually been hospitalized. He talked about it, and so our mutual friend called me and said, you really need to talk to Yannick. So I got him on a Zoom like this, and I said, look, I want to talk to you about havening, and I want you to promise to do it. I talked to him about a concept called post-traumatic growth, where, I mean, we all go through pain. This is how we're shaped as individuals, to go through pain. Our job on this earth is to translate that into helping other people. So I have him online, and I'm talking to him about PTG. And then I say, okay, let's haven together. And I want you to do this every day. Now, remember, he had just been hospitalized for about a week and pretty heavily medicated for anxiety and depression. And we sat there and we havened, and he loved it. And I said, promise me that you'll do this every morning and every night. He said, I will. And last night he got on, Steve, and he's like, Scarlett taught me PTG. Well, he's calling it PTG. And he said, it's incredible. I went off all my meds and I'm okay. And he has this beautiful smile. And he said, I love PTG. And so I said, well, PTG is havening. And that's what you've been doing. And I know that you love that, but I'm so happy that you're off all your meds. And so with that have you ever had a longer introduction? I'm just so excited, Steve. I love you guys so much. I want you to tell us about this thing that I've been talking about that is mind-blowing, that's so exciting, that can help anybody going through anything.
How was it? How did he find it? I'm curious about
Okay, my mom's asking, how did you find it? How did you come across this?
We could start from there.
Okay.
We could start
Thanks,
with
Mom.
we could start with some backstory. As you properly said, Scarlett, my brother and I have been on projects together. The first one, of course, being birthing. And he will always tell me that he's come out first, so just get out of my way in general. So, being a twin is a very interesting thing. And what makes it unique is you've always had a buddy from the very beginning. I never had to find a buddy. It was there. And I think many ways that's really, really protective of us emotionally, that we have someone. That I can't say that for sure, but that's what I think. So anyway, over the years, we've done many projects together, and some have been very successful, some have transitioned into other things. But one day he calls me up and he says, okay, Steve, I gotta tell you this. I go, he's an MD, PhD in organic chemistry. My doctorate is in dental surgery, and I'm kind of a philosophical biologist. That's, how I would describe myself. So he said, Steve, I was speaking with a friend of mine, Dr. Paul McKenna, who's a well-known writer in the UK. And he asked me if I ever heard of something called tapping. And of course, my brother had not at that time. This was maybe early 2001 or 2. And so my brother, being the curious person, says, oh, great. He went out and got the book. And next day he goes into the office, and he has this very big office. And he asked if anyone in his office had a phobia, which is, an emotional concern that sometimes causes people distress. And lo and behold, one of his physicians who was there said, I'm glad you asked, because I have a horrific cat phobia. He's desperately afraid of cats. So my brother took Roger Callahan's book, laid it on his lap, and tapped those little points that Roger would describe. And lo and behold, it went away. for an internist to remove something like this in minutes was really pretty astonishing. And the rest of the day, he went around tapping everyone in his office that he could find, and some of those he couldn't find, he dragged in. And he calls me up that night and he says, you know, I just cured a phobia by tapping somebody. And I, you know, expletive deleted. But I said, come on, really, Ron? Because it just seemed to be so
Outlandish.
usual. And he said, you know, I'm going to look into this and see what is the underlying construct. What's the physiology? How does this work? Well, guess what? There was nothing there. No one knew. Now, so he said, well, let's see if we could find out. Now, we had a rough start because the first thing we thought was that these types of problems like phobias and things like that were like a Pavlovian response. You had an exposure and that became encoded. Let's say you got bit by a dog, or no, Pavlovian is different. Pavlovian is what you call is a conditioned response. So you have a light, and then you do a foot shock to a dog. You have a light, a foot shock to the dog, a light, no foot shock, but light, but no foot shock, but the dog responds as if there was a foot shock. So they conditioned a response. So we thought originally that that's what we were looking at here, conditioned responses. But 3 years into our research, we realized that the time frame in delinking a conditioned response was in 45 minutes to days. And what we were seeing in our work was the delinking occurred in minutes or seconds. And then we said, well, this doesn't fit what we're seeing. And now you have the sweaty shirt moment where your work you've done for 3 years, you realize you're going down the wrong path. And now what are we going to do? So we went along a different path. And over those years in 2005, 2006, 2008, the neuroscience began to evolve. And eventually we were able to take different articles, we reviewed thousands and thousands of peer-reviewed articles, and we were able to tease out a narrative of what really happens in this. And then once we thought we understood it, myself, my brother, and another psychotherapist, we experimented on people. We would bring them in, what's your problem? We would apply the technique, and lo and behold, the problem would disappear, much to our surprise. And then around 2010, some more literature became available, and we were able to connect the dots as to how an event can create an encoding in our mind that changes our perceptual lens, that when we see it or see something similar to it, it causes a stress response in us and causes the expression of stress hormones, which are norepinephrine, cortisol, and adrenaline. Now, oven by itself, that is not a problem. That's a very normal biological response to a stressor. And that's what helps us get through whatever particular problem. But what happens, and this was the big finding, what happens if it never gets shut off? What happens if we're chronically bathed in these stress hormones, which in short term are good, long term, terrible for you? And so we had to uncover where in the brain, which neurons in the brain. Now, when you think that there are billions of neurons in the brain, and to become specific to pick out one neuron and tackle that one neuron is like looking for a needle in a haystack. How is that possible that we could find that? And what we uncovered was as follows. If, and we can go back and talk about this, if you can remember the initial event which caused the encoding, and generally speaking, after the age of 5, because we don't have memory, much declarative memory, things we can make stories about before then, if you can remember that, and if it causes distress upon recall, we now have access to that one particular neuron out of the billions. So am I making myself clear? Does everybody understand what I'm, yes, Scarlett, is it?
Yeah, I was saying, isn't it incredible? Because I'm thinking how much it could help you. I mean, you've got, well, I'm just saying, like,
Mom's loaded with anxiety.
memories from a long time ago and things that happened. So do I.
I know.
That are upsetting.
Mhm.
And we hold these, our body, you know, these types of events are protective for us. You know, it is really an incorrect use of the word trauma. It is a wrong word. It is a social psychological term that doesn't belong in this field. What we are experiencing is an event-specific biologic marker.
Ooh.
That means our body said, wait a moment, this is dangerous. I'm going to place an event-specific biologic marker in my brain. And if I see something that's similar to that moment, I'm going to create some stress hormones to get ready for fight or flight. Here's the problem. Under a certain set of circumstances, that event-specific biological marker does not get turned off.
And can I ask, that's because our brain wants to keep us safe. So it that I love this, that event-specific biological marker gets memorized so that if it happens again, and our brain then constantly says, is that it? Is that it? To keep us safe, right? So it's not something that, I think you're right. Like, we think about trauma and this negative, we have so much negativity around it.
It's a wrong word. It's a wrong word. It actually, trauma is Greek for wound. And people, this is how the substance of how trauma and the word trauma became used, is because the early psychotherapists and these people felt that what happened and the expression, therefore, of what happened was a wound, but it wasn't. It was an appropriate biologic response, and they've demonized it. You have a trauma. Well, that's not really what happened. And all of these people walk around going, I'm traumatized. It's wrong. The body responded absolutely properly.
Yeah.
So we need to begin to move away a little bit from the idea of trauma as the word that exists. So anyway, what we've uncovered, A, is how to find that neuron, why the neuron is there, how it got there, and how to permanently remove it by using our own intrinsic capacity to heal. We don't need anything. We don't need drugs. We don't need any of those things. So, you know, nature, when we were very early hominoids, we did not have doctors. We did not have body garages. We had our own ability to heal ourselves. But what we've done to some degree is we've given those things that we knew away, and we've placed some of those things in the hands of our physicians. Now, I think that physicians are great and they do a great job. However, here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. All medicine is based on the treatment of the symptom. You have X, you get this protocol. However, the symptom is generated by an underlying biological stressor that then becomes permissive to allow the expression of the symptom.
Right.
So
Can you say that one more time?
if we have all of medicine today, most of medicine today treats the symptom. You have high blood pressure, you get a high blood pressure medication. You have diabetes, you get a diabetes. But what would happen if we looked at it in a slightly different way? What is the biological stressor? What is this encoded event that has been placed in our system that is causing the stressor of our system to create this presentation? So treating symptoms as a general rule, I'm sorry, this is my family going crazy here.
Oh, good. Okay. I was hoping it wasn't my
No, I'm
computer.
going to shut my
I
phone.
wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah. Hold on. So what we need to do is we need to think about what we're seeing as symptoms as not the thing necessarily to treat, even though treating some of these is very, very helpful to mitigate problems, but to look a little bit deeper into the root cause of what's causing the permission for this symptom to be expressed by the body.
Permission for symptom to be expressed.
I mean, this is what I'm saying about almost all of the issues that we face in schools, homes, and communities. I guess we're wired to think this way, Steve. We address the symptom. We do that with bullying. We do that with substance abuse. We do that with suicide, but we're not looking at the cause. And you can't be talking about a solution unless you're addressing the cause.
You know, it's interesting. And I'll just briefly talk about this, and because you mentioned it, when people do self-harm cutting, I think you mentioned that.
I did.
Understand this, that physical pain and emotional pain are understood exactly the same in the mind. So having someone that is cutting is actually distracting their mind from the emotional pain, which is greater than the physical pain they are getting owing to the fact that they are cutting themselves. So it is cutting is a self-soothing device that people use for psychogenic pain.
It's
Now,
hard to understand when you haven't done
so
it.
yeah, so it's not right. It's not yeah. So we think cutting is bad, but if it's like anything else, why are we having this? Why is this happening?
Yeah.
So along the other journey, we eventually came to the point where we understood how to remove this event-specific biologic marker permanently, rapidly, comfortably, safely, easily. And we became very enamored with the fact that, well, we could do this. But then it became very clear that that was only half the picture. And the reason why it was half the picture, because then what do you do once this is gone? We need to be able to place into our system ways to then grow. And in havening, we've developed and worked with and have been very successful globally with doing something, I'm going to use a big word now, called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity means that under certain circumstances, I can create, or one can create new ways of thinking, new ways of even changing the past events. And even though something happened in the past, we can make that disappear and place a new memory in its place. Now that sounds ridiculous, but it's true. And we do this all the time. So we then moved on from that point as part of creating to create a new outcome, a preferred future for any individual. But now, along with you and many other of our other partners, much of our focus is going to be on what we call self-havening. And that is the capacity for us to internally regulate our responsiveness, to give us that space instead of being reactive and to hit the person. We can take the position of, I wonder why this person is acting in this way. So it gives us that space. So we have the capacity to self-care. So it's different a little bit than psychotherapy or anything else like that, because at the end of the day in psychotherapeutics, so if you have 168 hours a week and you're in the therapist 1 hour a week, that means you have 167 hours left to do. And what's wonderful about Havening, you can self-care. And at the end of the day, active well-being will be the mantra for the new generation. We have to actively consider that we take positive control of our health and really do everything we can. So everything, the point is that everything we do, every moment that we have, how can this create a better sense of myself? How can I become healthier because of this moment? And as you said, and if we look at the Stoic philosophy, our obstacles are our way. All of us who have gone through obstacles, have come on the other side, have had a great deal of learning. So at the end of the day, we look at these things not necessarily as obstacles or traumas or things like that. If the person can self-regulate, they look at it as a way to learn, to have a new self-lesson, to grow internally, because there's no other way. We're not imbued with all this knowledge. We have to learn it. And that's certainly part of the SEL programs. But if we now can magnify and amplify these knowledge bases by changing the brain through neuroplasty and actually building in hardwired ways to think this way, everything that you do in SEL and in Choose Love will be amplified and will get greater results. Now, all of this I know sounds interesting, but what I'm going to do,
Well, can I say something before you start? I'm just saying that everything that you're saying is backed up by a lot of scientific research and even what you just said, and that's called post-traumatic growth. It's what I was teaching Yannick, and it is what we teach. It's the foundation of the Choose Love program, and that is what most people experience when they go through difficulty. It strengthens them. They learn from it. They grow from it. They deepen relationships. They find new opportunities. They find a purpose. They deepen their spirituality. They have new connections. And so actually, in other words, difficulty is a growing opportunity. As you said, it's called post-traumatic growth, except most of us know PTSD, PTSD. Now I don't even know. I was getting rid of it already. You're rewiring my brain. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Most of us know it, but going into the pandemic, only 7% of the population would experience PTSD at one point in their life. The vast majority of us experience post-traumatic growth, which is what you were describing. I love it. Wow.
Post-traumatic stress disorder is a disservice because it's not actually what's happening. But we have a limited amount of time, so what I would like to do, if we'd be all right, is I would like to do a little neuroplasty with the people that are here today.
Oof.
How's that sound? Right. We have about 18 people here. Would everybody like to try a little neuroplasty to see how it goes?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
It'll be a 4-minute experience. Okay, so if everybody would, I'm going to put everybody in gallery view so I could see everybody. And so if everybody would very gently sit comfortably in their chair, right? Get themselves very comfortable. And I would just like them just to notice how you are in this moment. what, what happened today, or you're upset, or you're happy, whatever the moment is and where you are, what you're feeling, just recognize it and because what we're going to do is we're going to see how we're going to feel at the end of the exercise in comparison to where we started. That's a great way to do it. So what I'd like everyone to do is put their feet on flat on the ground. Just understand that your connection to your tushy to the ground and your feet to the ground, and kind of allow your shoulders to kind of settle in. That's great. So I'd like everyone to take a very deep breath in through their nose. Great. And out through their nose. And 2 more times. So this is the beauty of the mind. We can create anything we want. So if everybody's a little comfortable, just to gently allow your eyelids to close. Great. Become aware of your breathing with your eyelids closed. And I want you to just find yourself in a place that gives you great joy. Maybe it's the beach. Maybe it's the woods. Maybe it's with your children or grandchildren. Maybe it's on a golf course, wherever, in the garden, wherever that is. And I want you to place yourself into that moment. And then what I'd like you to do is gently cross your hands over and place your hands onto your shoulders in an X. That's great. And now you're in the place. I want you just to gently stroke down to your elbow, kind, but with authority. And continue to do this in 1-second cadences. Great. And I want you to go into that place that you are there and begin to develop the picture. If you're in the forest, the woods, in nature that way, see the trees. Smell the floor of the forest. See the light filtering through. If you're in the woods, if you're in the beach, feel the sand in your feet. Feel the breeze of the air. Smell the scent of the ocean or the water. Feel the sunlight on your face. And continue to just gently stroke your arms and breathing gently through your nose. And I want you to gently notice something near you. And I want you to place your focus on whatever that is. It could be a flower. It could be a shell. It could be a rose bush that you're planting, whatever it is. And I want you to deepen your attention to that and see what you see with it. Its beauty and your connection to that moment. And now I'd like you to invite your dear friend to come into that moment. Whatever that person is, have them join and know that they bring that sense of happiness and joy to you when you're in their presence. And you just want to share this moment with them. That's great. And as you breathe gently through your nose, I want you to feel the connection to the place you're in, to the person you're with, and the fact that at this very moment, you are just in time, not necessarily on time. And feel that sense of being in time within yourself. That's great. And we're going to then just gently, just rub your hands together as if you're washing them, just gently. That's great. Very good. Just gently wash them. Great. And then the third move that we use in havening is called face washing. So just gently place your fingers below your eyes and just make believe you're just washing your face with your hands. That's great. Always remembering you with your friend in this place that gives you a sense of oneness. That's great. Take a deep breath. Breathe gently. Place your hands on your knees with your palms up. Take a deep breath. And whenever you're ready, allow your eyelids to gently open and come into the present. That's great. So just know that at any time, you can go into a different place regardless of the circumstance you're at. You can change your state. You can create the space between stimulus and response. You could do this at any time because all you need is your mind and your hands. We call these things handybiotics, but at the end of the day, the 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 object and self-havening, which we just did a little bit of, is for us to be able to at any moment change our state that we so choose. Any questions, Scarlett? You want to make any comments on that, or any of these lovely people want to ask me some questions?
Yeah, absolutely. We will open it up for questions for sure. I want to say that I feel what I love about this is it's almost instantaneous, and you get this tingly feeling. There is a feeling that you get, and it feels great. And I also want to just comment that you said, I know this sounds it sounds like a lot, or it sounds kind of out there, but then we thought that phones were out there. There was no way anybody was going to go to the moon. Cars, what a stupid idea. Nobody's going to buy a car. And we always we're it takes a long time for a new technology to get out there and to be accepted and mainstreamed. This is the new technology. This is the telephone. This is the car. This way of thinking about trauma. This is the future.
Mhm.
And I hope that everybody on this webinar realizes that we're listening to the future of wellness. And the amazing thing to me is that it is our choice, that we can do it ourselves. It's so self-empowering. It's amazing. Thank you for that.
Scarlett, it's funny that this knowledge was very ancient, and we just forgot it. And many years ago, the shamans and other healers didn't have a lot of the bells and whistles we had today. So they had understand that our bodies are meant to understand this well before medicine, well before drugs. Our bodies had to learn how to heal themselves, except we forgot. And what this is, it has taken all the science that has come in the last number of years, and the neuroscience is really deep in this, and just be able to apply old knowledge, old wisdom to current day thinking.
Because it's always been there.
It's always been there.
We just
But
understand it.
when the mother picks up the baby and the baby knows it's safe, those were the fundamental movements that created humankind.
So beautiful. Okay, so
Simple but powerful.
yeah, it's simplicity is the most powerful. So Carrie has her hand
Hi.
up, and I know you asked a question in the chat box too. Hey, Carrie.
Hi. First, I want to thank you so much.
You're very
And
welcome.
oh, amazing. So helpful. I don't know how to get my hand down. I'll figure it out.
Okay.
But I'm in and out of the hospital a lot. I've been diagnosed with MDS, and I'm struggling a lot. And this is going to be so incredibly helpful. I think when the doctor is talking to me, or kind of sometimes talking at me, and his opinion of my prognosis, his opinion of a lot of things, as he's kind of looking at a chart, or then he said, "Oh, that's not you," and he'll put the chart down and grab another one, and things that happen a lot, and so
You're in his
I
hand.
think I'm going to be doing this havening, and it's I'm very emotional lately, but that's nothing new for me. My dad says that I would cry at a supermarket opening, but I feel so many emotions that have come up from just doing this in a short period of time. And I just wanted to thank you so much. And I also just wanted to ask if you're in the area and if you're seeing people, because I have a son who I think you could help very much.
We have a very large company that has practitioners all over the world. Where are you located, Sarah?
Carrie in Woodbury,
In New York?
No, Woodbury, Connecticut.
Woodbury, Connecticut. I would recommend that what you do is you go online to havening.org,
Okay,
and there are a list of about, globally, we have about 600 certified trained practitioners,
wonderful.
and you'll find one that will work great for you. And this is a remarkable approach. What you saw today was just something uh,
Yeah.
Haven 101. It's a lot, there's a lot more to it, but for this particular format, it's better we stay in just changing states than we do changing minds.
Right. Is it exactly? And just one more quick, is it
Sure.
similar to the tapping I do with, and I think Scarlett knows Bonnie, who's very into tapping and has taught me a lot about that. Is it similar to that where you, because I love the image that came to mind, but in tapping, we start out with very negative, what's upsetting us, and then we change it and try and shift it. So is this different?
It's different, but we in Havening come from a highly specific biologic and neurochemical and neuroscientific approach. I don't know what tappings is.
Okay.
So, and our protocols are just a little bit different. So
Okay.
does it work by a similar mechanism? Probably, but I'm not sure.
Well, in about 3 minutes, you made me feel like a new person. So I'm going to be quiet now, but thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Carrie. So we have another question, Steve. It says, where could I find a Havening script as an educator? This is an interesting question. How would you answer that?
The question is, what level of education are you talking about? Are you high school or kindergarten? I think that I will give you, yes, from Ashley, the answer is, so I will share with you something that we're sharing with Scarlett as we're going. So the phrase that, or the mantra we use for children is, and while they'll be behaving it, that we'll ask them to repeat this. I open my heart to friendship. I open my mind to learning. I choose to be safe, peaceful, and calm while they are doing the havening. And they neuroplasty those ideas into their systems. So on a group basis, what happens is if you're in a classroom and you do this, this creates a coherence, a biological coherence of the students and a biological connection from the educator to the students, and creates a group synthesis.
Wow. Oh my God.
It's
What about
incredible.
families? If families could do that together.
Families. My mom's saying, what if families did it together?
I have havened my grandson ever since he's been born. Before he goes to bed, I would go, you're well loved, you're smart. Everyone, you're very well kept. The key with young children, really young children, and what I think is a paucity is they're not told they're loved enough. You know, we have so much going on in our adult lives that children sometimes are there, but what they crave, what they need for healthy growth is to understand that they are loved. You know, we talk about authenticity, we talk about all these things. The truth be told, at the bottom line, it's all about learning to be self-acceptance. That is the only thing that I am okay. It's not about being authentic, because I don't know what that means. But if one can accept oneself as a sentient being in the world that has love to give and is loved back, I think sometimes that's enough to be able to lead a healthy life.
I love that. Mhm.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, Katerina, you can also unmute if you'd like, but she's saying, what about, we have a couple of questions which are interesting.
Sure.
What about teens? And then Ashley is saying, I work in a rough school, middle school. How do you get buy-in with the verbiage of this for kind of tougher kids?
Okay, let's go let me ask each question. So what the
Okay.
first way?
How about teens? How about teens?
Teens are what we call the metamorphosis age. They're going from one being into another being, and this transition kills off all parents. That's what
Oh, yes,
fundamental.
it does.
That's what the fundamental process is, to kill your parents and then go into something else. But I think that there are so many teens today that are in such distress.
Mhm.
And they're in distress anyway, because they have no clue. They used to be this and now they're this and they're going to be that. It's really a problematic, but where they're in such distress. And I think really the idea of, here's something that may help. How do you feel about it? It's everything in havening, and everything that Scarlett does is by invitation. We have to get them to invite us in.
Something that might
Because
help.
if we get invited in, they accept that responsibility for themselves. It is not something that we are trying to tell them to do. So
Mhm.
they have to understand that in their enlightened self-interest, this is go. So for example, if you were a teenager, a 13-year-old girl who just broke up with a boyfriend, and the mom is trying to comfort their daughter, she can come in and actually haven her daughter. It's okay. The worst is over. And just allow that gentle connection between mom and teenager and things like that. Now, if teenagers can learn to self-regulate, that means that the space between the stimulus and the response becomes sufficient enough where they can have some cognition in it, then we'll be able to see better choices being made. So we can teach them all of those things. But, with Scarlett and our union here, we're going to be learning how we have some data, we'll have some research available. We'll be able to give you really much more specific answers on how we can best work with different populations. But it's a great question, and I think that we will find that as we move through the processes of our collaboration.
I have an idea though to answer that question too. In addition to what you said, Steve, share, and it's also how to get educators interested and want to do it. It's sharing the benefits of it. So instead of saying, hey, I have a technique that can, or we're going to start doing this, and this is what you're going to say, class, start teaching about what the benefits are. And so, Steve, from your point of view, what would Ashley say to a group of at-risk youth? What could she say the benefits are that would get them interested?
I think at the end, and I'm certainly not the best person to ask this question, but I will give some a response from my point of view. And the question of at-risk youth is, from my point of view, is they don't see any good options for themselves. So whatever behavior they may have, which is totally reactionary, they feel that that is the best response for the moment. But what
They have no control. Their locus of control is outside of themselves.
Actually, the locus, the stimuli from the outside
What's
is,
happening?
is not properly processed to allow them to choose the best outcomes. So the answer is, what would it be like if you can actually take care of yourself and create a preferred future for yourself? I think they have to ask themselves that question. You know, why are you choosing this behavior? And if we can get a circumstance that you can choose an alternate behavior, how would you feel about that? So, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of it is by peer observation in these groups. If some of the kids are getting better results than others, then they may. But, you know, when I was a 26-year-old doc and a 40-year-old doc would say to me, let me teach you something, I would say to myself, what possibly can an old man, 40 years old, tell me about something that me as a 26-year-old person absolutely knows for a fact? So again, it's really how one approaches people, in not so much in a didactic way, but in an invitational way. So I think that so much of what we, as I think someone said, would it be better, instead of putting someone in a detention hall for them to ruminate on what they did wrong, maybe put them in a place where then they could do something positive and see that this result will come this way. So it really requires some rethinking of corporal punishment, of how we educate our children. So it's a very, very, very large question, especially in the teenage population or in the children that have no space. They have no construct of what it means but to be reactive. So these things are things that, you know, through SEL and through havening, we'll be able to give them that space to be able to choose better for themselves.
So good. Fee and Stacy.
Just a really quick question. So when it comes to working with teens and kids, we're still working on new protocols. And so we don't really have all the answers, but what I suggest is if you just do it yourself, mirror neurons are tremendous. If you're sitting there, you're like listening, and even if you're just listening to them and you're havening yourself, you may indeed put them in a calmer state.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's an excellent thought, Fee. And, you know, sometimes I do covert havening where I say, well, just tell me what's going on. And they start to ramble upon whatever they're rambling upon. And then I start to just gently havening. And I'll go halfway through that, you know, would you mind just for me, just gently rub your arms. There's science in here. It's not just rubbing your arms. There's deep, 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 deep science of delta waves and things in the body called the amygdala and all kinds of neuro crazy things that go on when this happens. So just understand it's not just this. There's deep science here. So
yeah, even say stuff like it makes oxytocin. You know, when you go to the gym and you feel really good, that's oxytocin.
actually,
You could make it yourself. What? So that's a little bit of it. That's a little bit of a little incentive that you can use and choose.
It is. That's a big incentive. Feeling good. We're all just trying to feel good. And we all want it like this. So we're going to reach for a bottle. We're going to do, you know, something that's quick, or, hey, this is just as easy.
Yeah, and actually the drug that is created by the body is something called an endocannabinoid. And it you know, years ago, they used to think it was endorphins, but they've kind of moved away from that. They're called endocannabinoids, and they produce a very interesting biologic response. Understand that I'm basically a biologist. You know, there are psychosocial people, and then there are biologists. So we're applying biology to psychosocial issues. So it's a little bit of a interesting mix.
I love it.
Okay, so Stacy, you're next. We only have 6 minutes and we want to fit in. We've got another question. I will say Stacy is famous to me for many things. She's amazing. She's she's our New York ambassador, but she also havens while while we're on team meetings, and I love that very much. She just dropped off, unfortunately. So let's go.
I'm here.
Oh, you are? I'm sorry. Okay,
Hi.
great. Yeah, sorry.
I
That's
see.
okay. I arrived late. I was just back in from the community. All good. When Dr. Rudin was talking about the reactionary piece, it really reminded me when I was searching for a preschool for my younger son who has high functioning autism. We went to a place in New York, in the mountains in Ellenville, and the lady was talking about her classroom setting, and she was very specific to describe they don't have a timeout chair in her room. They have a sweet seat. And when you're ready to come back and be sweet again, you're going to go sit there and you're going to think about your behavior. And when you're ready to come back and be sweet, then you let me know, you raise your hand. And that rang for me so beautifully. I thought, wow, this is a loving classroom. And these people have loving ways to redirect these children. And that's the essence of what we're trying to do. And we need to plant more seeds like that. And we all know it. You're all nodding your heads. But those are the messages that we need to ripple out in our ponds to be able to have educators reframe how we're addressing behavior. And that's like, you have exactly the right theories, and I'm happy to listen. I'm sorry I came a little bit late, but it's nice to see everybody. Thank you.
It's great to see you. Thank you,
Stacy.
Stacy. Paula? Paula, do you want to go?
Hi there. I just do, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi,
Okay,
Paula.
good. My internet's a little
Oh, darn it. It's a little
unstable,
long.
so however, is it a little wonky?
Yeah.
There's a variety of healing modalities that you nervous system to feel good. And, you know, you're using the head, the face, the torso, the limbs, the hands. So nervous system and help us to feel good. Is it specific to these touch parts of the body?
Yeah, in terms of parts of the body, there have been studies done by Mel Harper in I think around 2008, which the answer is yes. And the reason why it is yes is because the change agent of touch is called the delta wave. It's one of the alpha, beta, gamma, delta. Yeah, I'm sure many of you heard it, but the change agent that we use in havening is a delta wave, and light touch produces delta waves that then affect other parts of the system, which then change other things. So the answer is yes, but the whole field of psychosensory approaches to getting better is expanding. So light, for example, it had for seasonal affective disorder and depressed moms and different music therapies, all of these things apply our senses to help us intrinsically heal. We use touch because we understand what it does and how it works and all the underlying biology of it. But in many, you can amplify any of these by adding music or by adding some of these other psychosensory therapies. And now we're learning how to use them. We're learning how to harness these ideas to create change without drugs or without necessary lengthy psychotherapy and things like that. So we now know that the body or our behavior is fundamentally modulated by our non-conscious brain. Our non-conscious brain directs all our behavior, and we only become aware of our behavior when it is actually happening. We have no idea what's going to happen before it actually happens because we're not capable of understanding the underlying biological mechanisms that create the behavior. So most people think cognitive behavioral therapy is the way to go, but in fact, you cannot cognate your way out of something. It's all done in a non-conscious way. The biology occurs non-consciously and then creates a conscious or consciously aware outcome. So, for example, you will not know what your next word will be until you speak it. So we have to kind of work back a little further backwards a little bit to see how this all works.
Is that because our brain filters information from the the lower part of the brain, and then the last part that it reaches is the prefrontal cortex?
That's an excellent question. The answer is yes. All sensory data is filtered as to relevance to task at hand.
Mhm.
If it wasn't, your body would be embedded with, where are my feet? Where's my tushy? Where's my head? Am I sitting in the chair? Is my breathing right? Is my digestion right? All those things go on without conscious awareness. So the answer is that we need to filter information. So here's a great little trick, not a trick, a thing to understand. If you look in your room and pick out something the size of a quarter and stare at it for a second. Okay, great. If you know, and they could stop. If you notice that everything in the room besides that was unclear, because the macula of your eye was not looking at it. So your brain filled in the rest of the information, but it was only by the fact that it generalized it. It actually did not see it in the same way as you saw that one particular thing. So all data is filtered due to relevance, and then that relevance, and we know that the reactive brain works at something called 75 milliseconds, 4 times quicker than a blink of an eye. The cognitive brain filters in 350 milliseconds later. So it is both responsive, so you're getting the body ready to respond, and then you'll get the cognitive layer on top of it a few moments later, which will either inhibit the response or excite the response. That's how that works. I don't know if I'm getting too sciencey here.
It's,
Amazing.
yeah, no, it's absolutely fascinating. And this has just been incredible. I mean, I truly, and now everyone can see why I love you all so much, and that I believe that this is the future of wellness. And I love using our body to heal ourselves, obviously. And I want to thank you so much. Do you have any final words for us?
The phrase that pays for the next century is active well-being. We need to actively choose our well-being at every moment of our time, and be in time, not necessarily on time, but choose everything to make yourself and move into a place of well-being. That's emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, physically, all those things. So choose those paths and you will become healthier.
So Fee's putting in the chat box. So she says, haven for a few minutes in the morning and every night. While we're havening, should we be saying an affirmation? Do we have to be in a certain thought pattern? Or so when I get up in the morning, what should I just haven and plan my day? Or what does that look like?
I think that we have a number of different options here. There are people that do it totally content-free for 8 minutes, and whatever comes in and whatever flows out is where they are. And then there are times that you may want to construct your day, so you emotionally outcome your day, how you want it to play out, and then neuroplasty that in through havening. Okay. So there are many ways. Just experiment, see what works for you.
And for myself at night, I haven gratitude. I just haven. I'm like, I'm so grateful that I managed the day. I'm so grateful for everything, every little bit and thing. If you do this every single morning and every single night, you're fulfilling our mission. Our mission is to share havening for the betterment of humankind. If every single person just did this for a couple minutes every morning and every night, even if you didn't call it havening and didn't even know what was going on, I know that the world would be a better place.
And I know that too, Fee. And as I'm doing this right now, I'm havening gratitude for you and for Steve and for everybody who cared enough to show up today, because you all are the people that are going to be spreading the message of this and sharing this, and you all are interested in making the world a better place. And so I thank everyone. Steve and Fee, just love you so much. You see why I love them so
I do.
much. This is
I do.
incredible. You got to meet my mom too. And
You're beautiful, Mom.
Ron's already, thank you, Carrie. And Ron's already met her because she and my stepfather drove me to his office in New York City. And I had the honor of being havened by your brother, which was amazing. And I just want to thank you so much. I know time is precious, and this has been a precious time with you and Fee. This is incredible, literally life-changing. And I see other people shaking their heads. Yes, you have a lot of great comments in the chat box. Thank you so much, Steve and Fee, for being with us and for teaching us about havening. And everybody go and practice and be well and have a lot of fun.
Thank you
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you.
Sending love.
Absolutely. Thank you, Carrie. Thanks
Bye-bye.
everyone for coming on here.